Before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to jump in here real quick and do a free giveaway. If you didn't hear, I will be giving away free access to one of my online courses, the Social Media Automation Bootcamp, on the first episode of every month. So this program is a step-by-step training where I walk you through all the social media marketing strategies that you need to know to simplify the front end of your social media, what to post, automate your posts, and then how to boost your engagement online. That way, you know you're consistently showing up online from a front end perspective, even on the days where you just don't want to post. Maybe you're stuck in meetings, you're away on a trip, you have zero service, whatever it is. Now, today, of course, is the first episode of the month. So what I did, I put everyone's name into a draw who left a review on Apple Podcasts for the More Than Social podcast. So the winner is, it says this woman, she is inspirational in so many ways. Thank you for your ongoing, never-ending support and guidance as I enter into the entrepreneur world. I will never stop learning from you, my pool of knowledge. If this doesn't ring a bell for you, this was Natural Newt. So thank you so much for leaving that review. It honestly means so much to me. Please make sure to send me a message on social media at Lisa Ann Coaching. That way I can get you access to the bootcamp. Now, for you listening, if you want a chance to win free access to my online course, the Social Media Automation Bootcamp, make sure to head on over to Apple Podcasts to leave a rating and review. And then, of course, stay tuned for next month's episode. Anyways, let's dive right into the episode. In this episode, I'm going to share with you some of the best email subject line practices that will get your emails open and read. Hey there, friend. Welcome back to the More Than Social podcast, and thanks so much for joining me here. Today, I'm going to share with you some of the best email subject line practices that will get your emails open, but also read. Now, a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that their subject lines don't matter, but trust me, they do. So whether you are just starting out with email marketing or you've been doing it for years, I guarantee you'll learn something new from today. I promise you. Email marketing can be a great way to reach out to potential clients and keep them really updated on your latest products and your services and really what's going on. However, one of the most important aspects of email marketing is having creative and effective subject lines. Your subject line is that first thing that they will see, so it's important to make sure that it catches their attention and encourages them to open the email. When I was putting together this episode, I started writing down the main points that I wanted to cover for you, and I actually ended up coming with 6 different practices that I want you to follow. So grab a piece of paper, open the notes section on your phone, do whatever it is that you need to do to really pay attention to these 6 tips, okay? So tip number 1, a good rule of thumb is to keep your subject lines short and sweet. A subject line that is too long, confusing, or uninteresting is likely to be ignored. So try to avoid long sentences or like these hype-filled languages. Instead, focus on delivering a clear and concise message that will entice the readers to want to click open your email. Also, majority of your audience, they're going to be using their mobile phone to read that email. So the shorter subject lines are more likely to be read on mobile devices versus it being cut off. By keeping your subject line short and sweet, you can really just help yourself ensure that your email marketing campaign is going to be a success. Tip number 2 for you. So like I said, one of the challenges with email marketing is getting people to actually open your email. Another way to increase the likelihood is to actually personalize the subject line. Generic subject lines such as update or newsletter, they're often really overlooked in people's inboxes. But when people see their name in the subject line, they're more likely to open the email because it actually catches their attention really differently. You're shouting to them. I also suggest using that person's name in the body of the email to further increase that engagement and make sure that the email seems like you personally wrote it to them. By personalizing your emails, you can increase open rates and really improve your overall marketing status and the results that you get. Now, another key aspect of personalizing the subject line is that it shows that you are taking the time to write a specific message to that person who's receiving it versus sending out this mass email to every single person. Even though, yes, that is exactly what you're doing, it comes across a little bit differently, okay? Now, my third tip for you is all about urgency. One key mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs make is using urgency too frequently in their email subject lines. If everything is urgent, then really nothing is going to be urgent. So instead, save that urgency for when it's times where you really need it to be urgent. And that will actually help you increase your open rates. Now, another thing to remember is people are bombarded with emails every single day. And most emails that they get contain that urgent language in that subject line. So what I found is that people have become really desensitized to urgency and are more likely to ignore an email if it contains urgency. So instead, try using alternatives such as promoting a sale or a special offer to increase your open rates. Or better, lead with value and actually just speak to that person directly. You can also experiment with different subject lines to see which one actually gets the most attention for you. By using urgency really just randomly, you can avoid turning off potential clients and actually increase the chances that they're going to open and read your emails. Now, of course, this isn't the only factor that determines whether or not people will open your emails. The quality of the content, the list segmentation, those are also really important, but it's a good place to start. Now, the entire purpose of making these tweaks that I'm giving you is to make sure that you actually have an email that stands out in a crowded inbox. Something I want you to also remember is that not one subject line is going to work for every single email list, okay? There's certain subject lines that I use often with my audience, and they work extremely, extremely well. But that same one doesn't work on one of my clients' email list. The biggest thing that you always have to do, no matter what you're working on in the online, doesn't matter, just always test, okay? Seriously, I can literally shout this over and over and over again to you. You need to test, and then you need to test some more. That's tip number 4 for you. By testing different subject lines, you can see which ones are more likely to get opened. There are a few things that you can test, such as the length of the subject line, the use of emojis, the level of urgency, even the language that you're using. But also keep in mind, crafting the perfect subject line is often easier said than done. That's also why it's important to test different subject lines to see what works best for your audience. By testing a variety of subject lines, you can increase your chances of getting people to open your emails and actually taking action within that message. But make sure your subject line accurately reflects the content of the email too, though, which leads me to tip number 5 for you. Another thing I notice that people do is they'll put a random subject line just to get people to open the email, but then it really has nothing to do with the actual email content. It's important to make sure that your subject line accurately reflects the content of the email. So if your subject line is really misleading, the people getting the email, they're either going to delete it without even reading it or unsubscribe. And if you regularly send emails with misleading subject lines, it's going to hurt you altogether. So to avoid that pitfall, just take some time really to craft a subject line that accurately reflects the content of your email, that's a little short and something that grabs attention. Not only will that help ensure that your emails are read, but it will also build that trust with your subscribers. And my last tip for you is to avoid spammy words. Email providers are constantly on the lookout for spam, and they use a variety of methods really to identify it. One of these methods is to look for certain keywords that are commonly used by spammers. So if your subject line is full of spam words, you'll cause your email to be flagged as spam, and it will go right to that person's junk folder. So not only will that decrease your chances of your emails actually be read, but it will also reflect poorly really on your brand and your overall delivery. So to avoid being flagged as spam, make sure that you use really just straightforward language in your subject line and avoid any words that are commonly associated with spam emails. Feel free to Google it, but here are just some examples of things to avoid. 100% free, using all capitals, saying guaranteed, join millions, earn extra cash, eliminate debt. Most email providers will look at your subject line and actually tell you if it passes the spam test. So I want you to pay attention to that as well. But honestly, with just a little bit of attention to detail, you can ensure that your email marketing campaign is both effective and respectful of the user's time. Regardless of what tip you start implementing right now, just know that your email subject lines are one of the most important pieces of the puzzle to your email marketing strategy. They can literally make or break whether or not someone opens your email, and if they do open it, whether or not they actually take action. That's why it's so important to follow these best practices when you're creating them. By keeping your subject lines short and sweet, personalizing the tone, using that urgency just randomly and testing everything, and making sure that the content is accurate, you can increase your chances that people will both open and act on your emails. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at any point on social media at Lisa Ann Coaching. And don't forget, by the way, please leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or YouTube for your chance to win access to the Social Media Automation Bootcamp program. This program is where I teach you how to show up online, but automate it. But regardless, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I will see you next week. Bye for now.